So today we have an awesome guest with us. Her name is Millie, and she has been doing for several years a podcast. And she was a teacher for, I think you said 7 years, and was talking about the reasons why she became a teacher and how difficult it was to admit she didn't like it and to actually leave teaching, which made me want to contact her to say, okay, we need to talk about this because DeAndre and I can really relate to that story.
Yeah.
So, Millie, if you want to talk a little bit about what led you to become a teacher and what you went through in it, if it was difficult for you to leave based on your family's reaction.
Okay. I became a teacher because it was put in my head since I was a little girl that I wanted to be a teacher because my mom was a teacher, as far as I know. And I always say that because anything that my mom ever said to me, I have to question now that she's gone. And even if she was still here, I don't know what's true and what's not true. But so she was supposedly a teacher in Cuba, and the way she described it was that she worked in a schoolhouse, like Little House on the Prairie. That's how I saw it in my head. um, and I became a high school math teacher in a public school in Florida. So whenever I would talk about being a teacher, she would immediately try and compete with what I was saying. And I'm like, you have no idea what it's like to be a teacher. I'm sorry. And she would get furious with that. And I'm like, yeah, you taught little kids in a little schoolhouse in the middle of nowhere, and I'm teaching intensive math.
So she would try to make it like, oh, I know just what you mean, and give her opinion on it.
And the one-upping and everything.
Right.
Even just the time period, even if she taught something similar, whenever that was, it ain't nothing like it is now. That would be pretty irritating.
No.
So the first 2 years I loved it. And I went to a different school, which was way more difficult. And I wanted to quit. And she kept guilting me into staying because you summers off with your daughter and the benefit. She would tell me all these things of why I should want to stay when I hated it. I ended up leaving that school in 2 years and went to a middle school.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
That's the move of death.
You know what? I love teaching sixth grade.
Oh,
that wasn't the problem.
Yeah.
It was better than ninth and 10th grade.
Really?
Oh my gosh, it was so much better for me. But the problem was my principal was a narcissist. I believe she was more than just a narcissist. She was, in my opinion, a dark triad, which is narcissist, Machiavellian, and psychopath. The woman was insane.
Yeah.
She decided I was going to be her target, and she bullied me for 2 years. And I quit because she threw me under the bus. She put me in a situation where if I did what she wanted, I could lose my teaching certificate. So I walked away. And the school district did not support me.
Of course not.
When I quit, they didn't even write down what I said. I went in there crying, telling the story, and they didn't even write it down. I signed it, and I knew better than to
They're always going to support the administrator. It's just what they do.
Yeah.
Do you think that that type of principle, which we talked about in our last podcast about the types of personalities that are drawn to want to be in administration, there sometimes somebody genuinely wants to help change things, but then they realize they can't and they leave. But mostly it is this power thing, which is a joke to me because you're in a school, you're in a little school, you feel powerful. This is making you feel in control.
That's all of this, like, okay.
But do you think your principal was drawn to bully someone like you because you were raised to be particularly empathetic and to kind of roll over and take that verbal abuse?
They sniff it out. They look at someone and go, her. Why? Because I was always smiling, because I was always nice. She knew that I would be the perfect target, except she was wrong in a way. I put up with it for that long, but when I quit, I also went to the media. I ended up coming out in the front page of the local newspaper, my story and her name and the
That's awesome.
same.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, thinking back, would I do that now? No, but I felt like I needed to do something
Mhm.
because what happened to me was so unfair. But yes, and I don't want to say attract these kind of people, but because we are so kind and we want to be helpful and we want to be nice,
Mhm.
we attract those kind of people because that's what they're looking for.
Exactly.
I've become passive aggressive, which sounds
Mhm.
like what you went through. You take it and you take it and you take it because you feel like you need to, but then one day you've had
Mhm.
enough.
Yeah.
And
That's
then
it.
your reaction is over the top.
Yeah, but it's
Right.
like I can't anymore. I'm sorry. But
I exploded. I
yeah.
totally exploded.
Right.
Mhm.
But then they get to be like, well, look, you're crazy.
Exactly. Like,
But
oh my God, why are you reacting like this? Oh my God, it was da, 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 da. And then they gaslight you. I'm like, well, you should have said this. I had no idea. And I'm like, bull. That's such bullshit.
I
It
looked
is.
crazy in that moment, but you drove me to
And
these
the thing is, I
behaviors.
had been warned before I started working there. I knew one of the teachers, and she was like, look, I know that this particular school has a good reputation, but the principal's a problem. And
Yeah.
if she picks on you, you're going to end up quitting. And I was like, that won't happen to me. I'm too nice. Yeah, because I was nice, I thought that she wouldn't pick on me, but that's exactly who she was looking for.
I'm saying they gave her more of a reason to come find you.
Right. And this is part of the power trip thing. She had every grade into teams and she named them after horses. Anyone who's in this area knows exactly what I'm talking about now. And I was not on a team because I had come in, they needed an extra math teacher. Someone quit one of those teams, a math teacher, and instead of putting me in that role, she hired a new grad. That's just one example of how
Yeah.
she wanted to keep me out, how she
Mhm.
treated me.
In a way, I would have been like, cool, I don't have to go to PLCs because I'm not on a team. Because
Okay.
I'm like when you're on a team, that's extra meetings. Every team you're on, this is meetings, meetings, meetings. But
No, I still had to do everything. I had to attend every meeting and do everything she wanted, regardless of where I was. She just didn't want me to be a part of something.
why do they have to treat anyone like that? We talked about, do they think that that's what leadership is finding
No.
somebody to bully? But you
It's
talked
like
about this dark triad. Uh,
Mhm.
and I like that.
DeAndre, have you ever heard of that before?
I've heard of each one of those separately,
Right.
but I've never heard of them collectively called that, the dark triad.
The reason I think that principle was a dark triad or is because of the power, the Machiavellian part. That all they want is power and they'll do anything to get it
Mhm.
and be on top.
Mhm.
And the psychopath part is they really don't care about consequences.
Exactly.
They only care when something bad actually is happening,
Mhm.
like being in the newspaper.
Mhm.
Right. Happening
You
to
know,
them.
Yeah.
to them. Yeah.
Somebody is in front of them crying, falling apart.
That
There's this blank look. And it's very interesting that my last few days at my last school that did me in, I was crying in front of this administrator because I was just getting all of these very personal things I'm being told are wrong with me as a person, having nothing to do with me as a teacher.
Right.
And I'm crying, and there's this blank look and almost a smirk. And I was crying harder because I couldn't believe people like this exist. And I texted my husband literally, this person is a psychopath.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I can't live like this.
Mhm.
Attacking your personality,
Mhm.
that's to put you down as far as they can so they can control you, manipulate you better.
Exactly.
Yes. I think part of it was that I did have an opinion. And I think that was a problem for DeAndre also was
Yes.
you had an opinion, you would
Mhm.
challenge
Mhm.
administrators, you would
Yeah.
even say, hey, why don't you come and show me how to do it then?
Show me how to do it. Yeah. If you think that I should have done something different with classroom management or with teaching the lesson, whatever, cool. Come show me. Come model it for me then. Let me see what you're
Exactly.
talking about. And then we'll go from there. Like, don't just
Did
give me
they?
words. No. I had one principal who did, that's the only principal I ever loved who would come around and actually try to do stuff and would be involved in classes. Just one. But most of the time, no. They've never, of course, had the time for it. You needed to figure it out. That's not their problem. Every
Right.
excuse in the world, but no, they're not coming to do it.
Right.
And you're also an enemy now because you're challenging them.
Oh, of course. You're also starting a little slight rebellion in their eyes because when you have other teachers ask you about it, that's where those issues come.
Absolutely.
Mm,
Just bring us back to what makes you get the idea in your head that you want to become a teacher, because I've noticed it's one of two things. You've had this amazing teacher at some point
mhm.
that changed your life, right? I didn't have this. But
No, me neither.
Right.
my third grade teacher was so amazing, and they
That's
inspired
right.
me to want to be a
Yeah.
teacher. And I'm like, that's so beautiful. Not my experience. The other is that you have teachers in your family, you're told
Mhm,
it's a great job. It's sort
mhm.
of like put in your head,
Right,
this is a really good idea. You
Yeah,
should.
this is
right,
what you're doing. I don't think that like, aha, I want to be a teacher moment with anything. It's just my mom's a teacher. She's still a teacher. My grandmother's a retired teacher. My aunts are teachers. I have an aunt that's a guidance counselor, one that's a superintendent. Everybody's in that world of education. And that's basically just like what you're told to do. We all go like to the same colleges. We end up teaching some of us together. And what's a good job? We'll always need teachers and you'll have
Exactly.
your summers off. You'll have your benefits. It's always there. We
These
all keep the
benefits
same.
used to be decent, I guess, from what I understand, because now it's a joke. But
Mhm.
when we were growing up, it was a good job, security.
Mm,
You could retire and live on it, maybe. And my family will say now, well, it was. When I'm like, I feel like I'm going to get shot or punched in the face every day. This is not a safe job. I hear this from teachers all the time that they're driving to work and they just have visions of getting in a car accident. They're
mhm.
not going to do it on purpose,
No.
but it's like a fantasy so they don't have to go to work.
right.
Yes.
That is
That's
so
what
sick. When I hear about kids being bullied, I always say, I'll tell my husband if our kids are ever genuinely being bullied, I'm just taking them out of school. It's not that
Yeah,
we can
Yeah.
homeschool, we'll find another school. That is very serious emotional
Mhm.
stress.
Exactly.
But there are some parents that feel like you need to toughen up, get through it. Maybe it's you, maybe you're being
Mhm.
sensitive, which I think for a teacher to come to the realization that you want to leave or have to leave is very hard
Mhm.
anyway,
yes,
because you're leaving this calling, you're leaving your students. So
Mhm.
what
right,
you really need is support.
Yes.
right.
So Millie, when you decided you wanted to leave, well, it was because of this principal.
Yes, it was. Even the school before, I kind of was already thinking maybe this isn't the right thing for me. But when I got to that school, the kids were better, but then it was this principal. And by the way, something that you guys may all have also experienced is that she had one administrator who was just like her. So I
Mhm.
had two people, right? So it's never just them.
No.
And then she had a certain group of teachers that were kind of a clique. It was worse than in high school.
The
Mhm.
minions.
Right. Exactly. And I
Mhm.
wasn't part of that clique, and I was never going to be part of that clique because that's not who I am. I'm not going to kiss someone's behind just because the job or whatever the situation. I'm just not going to do it.
Mhm.
That's right. That's
And
right.
that's what was going on in my school too. And so those people are also against you.
Mhm.
So
Exactly.
it's not just the principal.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And some minions are very obvious, right? They're out in the open kissing the ass. But others are, it's more on the down low, kiss ass, but it's just the two of them. And they're more like rats.
Right.
Yes.
They're pretending to be your good friend when you first show up. You think
Mhm.
you can confide in them, and there's so much you need to talk about with somebody in the department because you're like, is this normal? Is this always the way this person is? And da da da.
Right.
Yep.
You found the person, and it turns out everything you're saying, they're going and telling the
Everything.
administrator.
Yep.
That's their
Every
flying
single.
monkeys.
Exactly.
That's
And
their
it's
I
yeah.
still can't get over that. I'm sure most workplaces have some form of a
Of
hierarchy.
course.
This
Right.
person gets their ass kissed. This person is the rat, whatever. But
Right.
the extent that it goes on in
Mhm.
schools, to
Yeah.
me, it's outrageous. And what is it about teachers that, for the most part, they're willing to take it?
Mhm.
Because they're afraid to lose their jobs. And it's not easy to get another job once you've been a
Yeah.
teacher. There is a
Yeah.
bias against teachers to
Mhm.
get a job in the corporate world.
Yeah.
Like we can
Mhm.
do 3 times the
Yeah.
amount of work of your average person
Yep.
anywhere.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I don't know what that bias is. They look down on us like we're just
They
babysitters.
really do.
I don't want anyone listening to let that stop you because
No, no.
Do
you gotta go.
yeah.
If you gotta go, you gotta go.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not impossible. That's the
Mm,
thing. So I'm an HR person, and you can put those skills, just write it differently on your resume.
exactly.
It
That's
Yes.
all
just
it is.
because we're magicians,
Mm-hmm.
we are parents,
Mm-hmm.
we are everything. I mean, we can do
Every
everything at once.
exactly.
We
All
can
of it.
relax for a minute to write something on a whiteboard, and we have to be aware of what's going on behind us. So we have eyes in the back of our head. I mean, we are magicians. We are
Multitasking is outrageous.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. And you can move it over because that's the same for me now. Besides working in the entertainment industry, my normal job is I am a manager. I work and manage performers, dancers, and also nightclub. So I did too have to like change those skills and all of
Right.
that and the naming of it, but I just apply it to my other position, especially like
Exactly.
managing my dancers and performers. They're literally tall
You're
children. I run them just like I would run my class. It works. You just have to find that place to go and put those skills to use somewhere else where you are appreciated and you actually get a check you can live on.
I think the stigma might be changing because the general public is becoming more aware of how awful it is. And there's so
yeah,
many teachers leaving that
right.
Mhm.
when you used to get a reaction of like, oh, you're a teacher, like, oh, isn't that cute?
Mhm.
Now it's like, oh God, you're a teacher.
Right.
They're like, oh my.
They
They
have
really-
it's so bad in Florida that the governor at one point was like, I'll just hand you a certificate. Go
Mhm.
teach. Not
Exactly.
anybody.
Exactly. Like just go in there.
Which is another thing we talked about with a teacher shortage that's so bad. Why do they treat people so poorly and
Right.
push them out
Mhm.
Right.
when they're doing a good job? You just don't like them as people or whatever your reasoning is. I just think they can't help it.
Yeah.
They can't seem to help treating people this way.
It's just that's their norm and it just comes out. It's crazy.
Narcissists tend to go for jobs that have power. So you're going to see it, even teachers,
Mhm.
principals, therapists. Beware of the narcissistic therapists. They're smart narcissists, and
Mhm.
that's the worst kind of narcissist.
Exactly.
Police officers,
Mhm.
Okay.
you have to be careful because they go for that job where they can be powerful.
Oh, yeah.
Politics, I'm guessing.
Mhm.
Yes.
Listen, again
And just like administrators, you have the few that get in it because they genuinely want to change things and help. I mean, I always think, why would anyone actually want to be president of the United States? Can you think of
I
anything
know.
more awful? Like, and it is that narcissism of like your head is going to be on something.
Forever.
You've seen the way it ages people and the
Mhm.
stress, the whole
Oh
world
my
is
God.
literally on you and your decisions. And who would want that?
Yeah,
Yes.
There has to be
I
something
agree.
wrong with you.
Yeah. I'm like, I did wanna do politics, but, like, more local things because I do wanna be part of changes, but that becomes too much stress for me, number 1, and I feel like those people are all narcissists and psychos,
Right.
and I don't wanna go and start fighting with them and having all that drama. I'm like, "It's not that serious for me?" I want the change to happen. It doesn't have to be my face on it. I just want to be able to
Right.
help on the if I do it in the background, that's fine, but I'm like, I'm not going up there to fight with these people because you want your head to be on the next quarter. Like, I'm not doing that.
Right.
It's just not worth the energy.
Mm-mm.
No, it's not.
But Millie, if I could ask you, you left because the principal was so bad. But if you were in a school with a supportive principal, do you think you would have stayed in the job?
I've always said if I had been in the first school where I was at, that maybe I would still be a teacher because I really loved that school. I loved my students. I had friends there. No one seemed to be narcissistic or toxic. Maybe is my answer. I think back at it now and go, do you have the strength to do that now? No, I couldn't do it now. I actually got hired again in 2018 to be a middle school teacher at a different school. And as it turns out, I went for 2 days, that week before,
Mhm.
and I realized you can't do this. You don't want to do this. This is
Yeah.
not your thing. I was
Mhm.
still convinced I could do this.
Mm.
And That's when I let it go completely. So
Yeah.
it took me years.
I almost feel like you have to be abused out, but you can't leave because it's a great job and the kids need you. They will be like, "Whoa, you got punched? They broke your nose?
Yeah.
That's relatable. You can leave now. We'll let
Yeah,
you,"
it's exactly.
which is so crazy. Why can't we as
Yeah.
adults just say, "I don't want to do this anymore," and I don't need to explain why?
Exactly.
And
But
we can.
we
We
can,
can.
believe it
Mhm.
or not.
We can. We
Mm,
think we can't at that moment, but in reality, we can do whatever the heck we want.
But I think most teachers are almost brainwashed into,
Yeah.
this is your purpose.
Right.
And it does, it makes you feel good about yourself, regardless of
Mhm.
what's going on in the world. And if you're getting up every morning and trying your best to not just be a good teacher in your subject, but be there for your kids,
yeah.
Right.
you can feel really good about that.
Exactly.
You have a purpose,
Yeah.
and for me, every year at graduation, it was emotional for me, not
Yeah.
because they're graduating, but I felt like I got through another year and
Mhm.
I'm connecting to every kid that walks across the stage that I've known in some way. Oh, I remember when he was like this and the changes he went through, and it
Right.
Mhm.
very meaningful. But is it worth what it's become?
Right.
Mhm.
The level of exhaustion and the way that you get treated and what you have to put up with and all these different things. And if you're just not enjoying it anymore,
Yeah.
that's what I've been thinking about. And I recently asked my followers, you ever thought about why you became a teacher and what kind of people become teachers?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Why is there this group in society that have to be helpers and that we don't feel fulfilled if we're not helping other people?
Yeah.
Whereas there's other people that can just work a job for 30 years where they make money and they're like, I'm good
Right.
money.
And I'm good to go.
I still don't know the answer to that
Mhm.
because I think about that too. I'm like, why can't I be that person? I'm
Yeah.
in a nonprofit right now. I know that what I'm doing is helping people. And that encourages me every day. You're doing it because you're helping people.
Mhm.
What is it about us and that mindset of having to help people? I don't know what the answer is.
But are we getting a sense of self worth? I'm a good person and my life is worthwhile because
Yeah.
I'm helping people.
Right.
Probably
Yeah.
that we probably acted a lot that way with our own mothers
Mhm.
when they were helpless or they
Mhm.
need us. And we were just programmed.
Exactly.
Or just
Please
having a
help.
family in chaos.
Right.
Only now that I'm raising my own little family, and it's at least for now, I have a 10-year-old and a 5-year-old, and it's peaceful. There's no yelling and screaming. I mean, yeah, I have a 5-year-old, so there's
Right.
whining and there's like,
Adorable stream. Yeah.
but the turmoil, the
Mhm.
constant arguing and that tension and the not getting along and people like going to the room and slamming the door and all of that. I didn't know anything else, but I was the only one trying to fix it.
Mhm.
This
Right.
could be better. This doesn't have to be this
Yes.
way. Fixing and are you okay? Are you okay?
Mhm.
But I don't know why I took on that role, if that's just my personality, but it's what I got comfortable with. So it comes naturally.
Right.
Exactly. That's part of what happened, like, with me thinking about it and how you said it. I'm the oldest of my mom's kids, with my
Mhm.
mom and my stepdad, and he was in the Marines, but he was also a truck driver and would be going on the road a lot. And then my mom being busy with her normal activities and stuff, I always was like almost like that pseudo dad in that moment for them,
Yeah.
you know,
Common.
yeah, and so I feel like even with them now, I don't feel I've ever had a brotherly relationship. I've always been like dad number 2.
That
And so I feel like that kind of just led into that teaching thing. I don't know if my mom and them, they knew like, that would lead into the world of teaching as well. But I do feel it's something that I've always done and had to do.
well, it sounds like your stepdad was a lot like my dad, the perfect absent enabler.
Hmm.
They do everything they can not to be there so they don't stick up for their own kids and they're not there to be abused. That
Right.
was my father. My father worked 2 jobs when I was growing up. I saw him on Sundays
Yeah.
because he worked during the day a part-time job and then went to his full-time job at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. After I
Mhm.
got married the first time, he switched to working during the day, but I think he did everything in his power not to be around.
Right. Yeah, my dad, he was on the road. He still is a truck driver now, but he
See.
drives but we're all grown, but he comes home every day. His shifts are like 12 hours, but he works like 4 days a week. So he's home a lot more. But when we
Mhm.
were younger, he would be gone. He would leave out Monday morning and come back Friday night, Saturday night, and so we would see him for a little bit on the weekends or like a day or two during the week. But he did all those cross country loads a
They have
lot.
the
So when we were
perfect
younger,
excuse of like, well, I'm
Mhm.
working.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not abandoning you or anything. This is my
Hmm.
job and
I'm
I
at
work
work.
these hours. I don't
Hmm.
really have a choice.
Exactly.
But it's like you could get a different job, maybe.
Yeah.
Like like you could. He's like, "But no, this
But
job pays great."
having that excuse of like they might not have even been aware of it. They might be thinking, oh, I work so much, I work so many hours, but
Yeah,
there's a reason.
Right.
exactly.
So they don't have to be around, which that's interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Did either
That's
of
my
you
dad.
That makes sense, yeah. I
okay.
didn't even think about it that way, but that definitely makes sense.
Did either of you experience almost like a withdrawal period after you left teaching where you miss the chaos of it? Because if we grow up in chaos and then teaching is complete and utter chaos,
Mhm.
it, or was it just a feeling of freedom that never went away?
I think I had my moments of missing. I did. I think even still now, because I say I have my nephew, and he just started his first week of school. He's an 11th grader here, and taking him and doing stuff just with all the beginning orientation stuff he's been doing and the packets and the syllabus stuff. And I'm like, I remember doing this. I did it. I'm like, it's a headache, and I'm glad I'm not in it. But something in my body is like, I should also be doing this right now. And this is how I would be doing today. It's almost like missing it, but I'm still happy I'm not doing it.
Right. Well, I didn't have the chaos that you were talking about because I didn't have siblings. I grew up an only child. I found out about my siblings just recently. I was alone a lot. I remember telling my mom I was bored a lot. But to answer your question, at first I felt a lot of freedom. And oh, I'm so glad. But then something happened where I was obsessed with becoming a teacher again. I was working a temp job in 2014, another nonprofit. I was trying to get back into teaching. And I told you I got a job in 2018. And that was when I realized this is not what you wanted to. And I have
No.
tried to go back since then.
Yeah. It's like,
It's
no.
insane how we, like you said, it's something about where would I be now if I had stayed? There's that questioning. That
Mhm,
was such a good point.
mhm.
Where would I be now if I would have continued teaching? I don't know, probably in a mental institution, but
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. The opposite of that is if no one ever said you should be a teacher, if no one talked about teaching ever in your childhood,
Mhm,
what would you have gone to study? Would you have come up with it on your own?
mhm.
Like DeAndre, it sounds like you would have gone towards the entertainment field or something.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've always dipped my toe and would run, dip my toe and run because I felt like number one, it's not a safe job to make money. I felt anytime that I was doing very well with it, as good as that was, I still felt it wasn't good enough for my family. I felt the only time they were ever super proud was when I was teaching and when I got nominated for Teacher of the Year and all of these other things. And I graduated top of the class when I did my bachelor's in education, my master's in educational leadership. Oh, those things are proud. But like me modeling in other countries or me doing an off-Broadway play or musical and things like that, I felt those things were very great. But it's those were like, okay, good. Yay, I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Whatever. I always ran from it. And that is definitely my passion. It's something I love. I still love doing it today, but they made me feel like that wasn't the thing to do. But if I didn't teach or if I didn't get that put in my head, that's definitely the world I would have been in a long time ago.
right. For me, I think it would have been psychology. Learning
Yeah.
all of the things I've learned, I just, the brain and the mind is such an intricate and interesting thing that
Mhm.
I would have loved to just gone into it, maybe gotten as far as my PhD and really tried to understand all these different conditions,
Mhm.
and not just narcissism, but everything, schizophrenia and all these different illnesses and how people think and how you remember things. I think that's where I would have gone.
I actually originally started out studying to be a therapist because
Same.
to me it was like teaching or social worker, which is
Mhm.
really not that different. And I often
Right.
felt like I don't know if I was the most amazing English teacher because I don't even care that much about grammar. I'm not like English teachers are like psychos about grammar. I don't even remember what a gerund is, and who cares? I'm not supposed to care. Um,
Right.
but I think I was good at making it entertaining, but it was more me caring and doing the social work aspect that I
Right.
was great at and why I got burnt out. But I started out wanting to be a clinical social worker, and I hadn't really gotten a handle on my own issues, mostly really serious depression as a college freshman, and
Mhm.
needed to be medicated, needed to be in therapy, and wasn't. And when they got to the suicide and the training for that, I was like, there's no way I can handle this. I don't know that I would have lasted because I find it exhausting talking to someone about their problems, especially when the person goes in circles and isn't listening and doesn't build insight. And we're always talking about the same thing. And I can't imagine a whole day of patient after patient of bullshitting, like taking forever to dig to the root of the issue and all
Mhm.
of that. That seems almost as exhausting or more than teaching.
I agree. I would give them what advice I thought was best, and then they would come back and tell me, how come this isn't it? Because you didn't do what I asked you in the first place. Right.
Right.
And I'm not a therapist, not they don't have to, but it feels like, oh my God, why are they asking if they're not going to take the
If you're
advice?
not gonna listen.
You know what I learned though? It's okay. Everyone is in a different place.
Grew up sort of like not only do you talk shit about everything, but it's a form of therapy. Which
Yeah.
I agree to an extent that you do have to vent.
Mhm.
And in a stressful job like teaching, I've said I think it's okay and should be understood that when you leave the classroom and it's just adults, we're going to keep what we're saying between us and say, God, the principal's acting like a psychopath. This kid just told me to go fuck myself. And when I called
Yeah.
home, the parent
Right.
said, well, what did you do to provoke him? You
Mhm.
Oh,
have to
right.
you have to get it out a
Yeah.
little bit.
Right.
Mhm.
Then there are people that are the other side of the range where they're the toxic positivity. And we don't complain ever. We don't talk shit ever. And everything is
Right.
always beautiful and perfect.
Right.
And so, whoa, when they meet me, even on my best day, I'm like, fuck this and fuck that.
Yeah.
So that is an interesting dynamic in teaching because you've got people along the spectrum. And I think it's should be allowed a little bit to each other, not to the kids. Just get out a little bit about all the crazy things that you're dealing with. But then you move on.
Mhm.
Right.
That was the part that I didn't know about. Is like get it out, you move on, and you don't have to dwell on it. Like we already talked about that
Yeah.
kid's an asshole. Let's move on. That was the
Mhm.
part that I've had to work out a lot.
Like, get to
Um,
the next one.
Right.
but there are these people in teaching that make you feel like if you even feel stressed out at work, there's something wrong with you.
Mhm.
Right.
If you're having a hard time coping or have stress related illnesses or what
Right.
any of that, it's you.
Yes.
And that's never true
Mhm.
in this kind of situation. So it's hard figuring out the right amount of uh, normal complaining and then am I turning into this toxic person?
Yeah,
Right.
I get
But
that.
having that partner who's not that kind of person
Mhm.
and is willing to tell you, all right, listen, you've been on a rant and it's enough already. Is
Right.
Like, "Okay, we got it. Yep, let's go on."
My husband's the same way. Whenever I just talk about anything, could have been teaching my mother, whatever. He's like, okay, we've been talking about this for a while. That it's time to move on. And you're right. I mean, we can become obsessed
Mhm.
if something is going wrong or we're not happy in our life situation.
Just
We can
spirals.
become obsessed with it. And that is a clue that we shouldn't be in it. I mean, if you're talking about it on Saturday during the day, maybe you shouldn't be doing that.
Exactly.
So I always ask my husband, or he'll just tell me, this is always how it is. It takes you about 3 weeks, the beginning of the summer, to get the poison out. And then you'll finally stop talking about it. And I'm like, really? 3 weeks? He's like, oh, you will rant about the same thing over and over and over for about 2 to 3 weeks. And then finally you are out of it. And then I'm not like this peaceful person who's just cool with life.
Yeah.
But then
You start to panic about that letter, that welcome back letter. Oh my God.
God.
Oh my God. See,
It was like, oh my God.
when you get that schedule of what they're going to make you do
Oh
in the
Right.
free service,
God.
and it's
Yeah.
a bunch of bullshit,
Yeah.
you're like,
time.
It's
and
so
I was getting
stupid.
excited because for me, setting up my classroom was very ritualistic. And
Mhm.
I really needed time to
Right.
make my space. And since they make
Yes.
you take everything down, which really pissed me
Mhm.
off because over decorated and I put a lot of
Yes.
thought into it, and it's hard to get that
Same.
to stay on the walls because
Yeah.
it's too hot or too cold and it falls down. For some people, they don't hang up anything and
Mhm.
they just leave.
It's
But
fine.
it would take me forever and to
Yeah.
pack the stuff up and put it away because whatever goes on in the summer, they're gonna destroy your shit. Like,
Exactly.
Half the time.
Nothing.
I'm like, could you
That's
tell
all.
me? Are you sure they're gonna use my class? Right,
Yeah,
because
they,
they don't even want to look it
For
up.
real?
they do nothing.
Take your keys too. I always found that adorable because, like, one,
No.
you think I'm coming here?
Like, what do you think I'm gonna come do?
I'm not
Like,
coming by. And
I promise I'm not.
Coming in the summer.
No, I don't care.
I am. It's. What do you think? I'm gonna have a party or something? I mean, it's
Exactly.
because I'm gonna set things up. But
Yeah.
I was amazed when I was out of school where they didn't take my keys. They made
Mhm.
me feel like they trust me,
Right.
expect me back.
Exactly.
They know I'm not doing something weird in the class, but mostly they take the keys, which I always thought was very weird.
They
But
take it out, they take it and they lock it up. They say, we're gonna have to do your room. They might use it for X, Y, and Z. They want to clean, they're gonna do all these things. They don't touch it till the week before school. It's so pointless.
that lack of respect or thinking
Yeah.
about us in any way.
And when I taught elementary school, like, because I've taught everything from elementary, middle to high. I did high school math as well, and middle school math and computer science. But in elementary, I did every subject for the fifth grade. But I was that teacher. I had the couch and the beanbag chairs and the like classroom library. So like packing that shit up every year just to lay it right back out, and you did nothing in here was so annoying.
Yeah.
The last couple of years, the beginning of the year, I would go to administration, explain everything we're talking about. That I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm kind of known for having this really welcoming room.
Hmm.
You might not realize how much time and effort goes into getting all
Right.
that stuff in place. That ends up being a waste of my time to have to keep
Hmm.
redoing it. I know you don't use all these classrooms in the summer. Can you either put me in a classroom that isn't used
Hmm.
or plan to not use the class? I just feel like they could spend 2 minutes on this,
Easily.
taking care of this for you. They always give you a wishy-washy, like, I don't know, we'll see, let's
Yeah.
talk in June.
Right.
And in June, I don't know, you have to, nope, sorry, blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
blah. Just
Yeah.
same answer to everyone,
Mhm.
just take your shit down. And I don't know why.
It's stupid.
Maybe because people are going to complain. Well, why didn't she have to take her shit down? But I did.
Yeah, that's probably it.
That could easily be explained.
It's like they have all this extra stuff.
You don't use all the rooms.
Yeah. Or if you're just not going to do it. When I went to my ed leadership stuff, like there's nothing that talks about it. And when I did my internship for it, there's nothing that's just making everyone have to take their things down like this. It's just something they make everyone do. If they're
Yeah.
not going to touch that classroom, leave it alone. If you know, okay, your classroom has to be painted, so you take your stuff down. Your classroom has to be recarpeted or we're waxing your floors, whatever. Cool.
Mhm.
Let those teachers know so they can get their rooms together. But if my room is fine, it's gonna look just like this next year. Why am I putting stuff up just to put it
Right.
back down? Like it doesn't make any sense.
Or a little planning. Like if you're using half the classes in the summer for whatever reason, plan out the classrooms from all those teachers that just quit because like half of them, there's nothing in there. You
Don't
have to.
trust people.
You
Yeah.
want to know something crazy? I never had the same classroom 2 years in a row. It
Really?
was moving every year
Oh my
for no
God.
reason. One semester, I didn't have a classroom, so I would go to teachers' rooms during their planning period. I had a little rolling, that was fun. And then they put me in what they used as a closet. It was a big storage room.
Oh my
So I
goodness.
had my own space. And then when I was in the middle school, of course, they put me in one classroom and then the next year was a different one. So,
That's crazy.
And a lot of the time, there is no reason.
Mm-mm.
I've asked multiple times to move to a bigger classroom. Oh, there's this many teachers left, which means their classrooms, which are way bigger or have windows and mine doesn't,
right.
which is a very big deal.
Yeah.
You know, can I move into one of those 5 classrooms? And it's like, we'll see. And then no, I would say, well, why?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like,
Don't ask me.
okay, fuck you, you're a problem.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, don't ask me why. Just
Because
think
they don't have a why. They're just like, I just say no because it makes me feel some kind of way. I don't know.
it gives me that little bit of adrenaline for my power I use for a moment.
Right.
I guess
You're my puppet. Do what I say.
Exactly.
I wonder, like, the person that gets the one classroom with no windows, are they like a problem person? Or to me, it's usually the new teachers get that shit. They get the
Yeah.
class no one wants to teach, they get the rooms nobody wants. So if there's someone in there year after year that's getting put in the classroom that's got all the cockroaches,
Yeah.
you gotta wonder. But there could
Mhm.
even be teachers who said, I'll switch with you. I don't care if I don't
Yep.
have windows, which is outrageous. Because I mean, it really makes you feel like you're in a prison cell with
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
Exactly.
it does.
and no windows. It's like,
Yeah.
season is it? What
I know.
day is it? This is weird. I actually bought several posters of windows.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like liven it up a little bit.
And before schedules were made, some person who's been there forever just doesn't care. I'll switch with you. And then you go and ask, and it's either, oh, we'll see. And then they never answer you, or just no.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Why not? Because no.
Just because.
You're right.
No.
You know, like growing up when you ask your parents something and they're just saying no, and you know they don't even have a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's because I said so. That's it. Just
But
because I said so. Like,
Because
I mean,
that's
I never want to be the because I said so person.
no, me either. I hate it. And more power to you too, I must say, Millie, for being that roamer. I had when I was teaching high school, I had my classroom. I used to have a roamer teacher who used to have to come and use mine during my planning period. I feel so
you
bad
hate
for
it.
the roomers.
Oh, I was gonna say,
Okay, so the first year I hated the lady who came because she always tried to take over and act like it was her room. And then it would be just like the kids were bad as hell. She didn't have any classroom management. I would end up having to be like, can y'all stop running around my class and help her while I'm in there? But the second year, it was such a nice person. And when they came in there, I did not mind. I gave them like one of my little cabinets. I was like, this is for you. Whatever's for this class, you can keep it in here. I don't
oh,
mind.
that's nice.
You have this little dinky cart you're rolling around like all through
Yeah.
this school.
We've all been there to some extent or have had multiple rooms. Like I've had 3 different rooms, so I don't have a home base really.
Mhm.
So I'll have a cabinet and a bulletin board in this room, but it's not my room. And
Mhm.
how crazy it makes you feel that you're like,
Yeah.
where am I supposed to be right now? And
Yeah, I have no space. I have no
you
nothing.
can't set up the desks how you want because you're sharing with multiple people. And to me, I never found groups where, like, let's say groups of 4, where 2 are facing 2.
Yeah.
I don't know how anyone teaches like that unless they're the most strict, scariest person, which in that case, they probably wouldn't have their desks in groups.
Yeah.
I have never found a way to get kids to shut up when they're facing each other.
No, I tried so many times to do that.
Mhm.
Every year I was like, I'm gonna do the collaborative thing. I'm gonna put them in
Mhm.
groups. I always had to separate them because it
Yeah.
never worked.
They end up acting up.
I've noticed with teachers when they do PD or a staff meeting in a
Yeah.
room with desks facing each other, we won't shut up either, even when the presenter's talking.
Exactly.
We're
It's
facing
like,
each
you're
other.
putting me right here.
We're just
This
gonna
is my
shut this out. And
Yeah.
I
My face
hated
right here.
being in a room where nothing was the way I would want it. And
Mhm.
I had a million worksheets and I had things I wanted to use. And it can make you feel it's a chaotic job and it's that much harder to be all over the place all day long. There has to be a way that they can have that not be the case. If they need to get more portable classrooms,
Right.
Mhm.
whole another thing.
That was my favorite classroom. I had a portable at one of my schools, and I adored my little portable. I felt like I was in my own little world. It had the windows on every side of it. I used to have like when the weather was nice, it had a front and a back door. I used to open both of them and let like the little cross breeze blow through. If I ever had to teach or do anything else again, if I could go back to a portable like that, that is my favorite classroom I've ever had.
I've heard good and bad things. Like if it's a newer one, you get climate control, which
I
is
did.
great. And then admin forgets you're there or they don't feel like walking out there, so they're bothering you less. And
Exactly.
so that's good. But if it's an older one, I've heard about ones having like a hole in the floor
Oh gosh.
with like
Yeah.
wildlife just coming in.
Yeah, if they get the whole, and then if it doesn't have the good AC, it does become like a hot box, and it's just you melt in there.
Yeah,
Like,
or
yeah.
kids have to walk. They're outside. They have to
hmm
go to the bathroom. And now you got a problem with like they're just disappearing.
Exactly. Like they're gone.
And it's your fault 'cause you're
Yeah.
supposed to control that somehow.
Mhm. No.
But there,
Hey, let's talk about the bathroom. I'm glad you brought that up. How teachers not being able to pee when they
Uh,
want to.
at all. I hate it. It's
well, I'll tell you my first how many years? I don't know, 7 years or something. I really played the game. Like I gotta hold it. I have 3 classes in a row.
Yeah.
Once I became pregnant with my first daughter, it was like there's a person sitting on my bladder.
Yes.
I would just leave class.
Yeah.
And I was like, let somebody give me a hard time about this. And no
Right.
one did. And then after that, I was like in love with going to the bathroom when I needed to.
Yeah.
And I happened to the women's staff bathroom like 2 doors down. So it could be that quick.
Oh
But
yeah.
you can really get in trouble for that.
Oh,
In the
absolutely.
class. You know,
Right.
Like
they're
I
12th
can't.
grade, be all right.
No. I even did it with my fifth graders. I'm not going to even lie. I made sure that they understood. I didn't do it at the beginning of the year. We built our relationship and they knew my expectations. I got it to a point where I put the fear of God in them, where I'm like, I have to go pee. Like, you guys get to go, I get to go. If I hear anybody's voice when I get back by this classroom, if anybody is up, I swear to God, we will not go out to the recess for the rest of the year. We're not doing this, we're not doing that. And I would go and I would come back and everybody's just sitting there doing their work and stuff. Okay, great. This works. And then, so I was like, let's try this next school year. And then
Yeah, I would just disappear.
worked it. Yeah. I was like,
And I felt like if I tell them I'm leaving, even like go to the bathroom, I'll be back in a minute. They're
yeah.
like, she's
They
gone.
didn't even notice you went.
Yeah. Like, ow.
I would just disappear. And a lot of times they wouldn't notice,
Mm-mm.
but they're nervous because
Yeah.
somebody else could pop in. You know,
Exactly.
that always worked. Just
Mm-hmm.
slip out for a second. And I'm not good at the fear of God thing. You know, I'm not good at being scary.
Yeah. But see, it's easier with the little kids with that because, like, when I did high school, like, I
Yeah.
don't have nothing to take away. But from the little kids, you take away recess, you are taking away their life. That's when they see their friends. That's when they can do whatever they want. In our school,
Right.
they went to recess every day. You know, so if I tell you, oh, y'all aren't going, that's like telling them that literally they're going to prison. Like they are not
Right.
risking that. So it's easier to hang that over them versus when I did high school or even seventh grade.
7th grade is rough, man. Because 6th grade, they're still kids. But by 7th grade, they're kind of like, oh, I'm growing up a little bit.
Exactly.
That's the roughest year to teach.
That's what we saw. That's what I told her on our last podcast. I was like, the sixth graders, they're still kind of babies. Even at one
Yeah.
of my elementary schools I taught at, it went to sixth grade. They were still
Mhm.
elementary, you know. But those seventh graders, I said, I cannot. That was my last year teaching. I think they were the ones that pushed me over the edge. So
I'm not surprised. I
Yeah.
sat in because one of the teachers was absent and I filled in during my planning period.
Mhm.
I went to her class and I was like, holy, I'm not teaching 7th grade ever
Yeah.
because, oh my God,
They
it was
are
like,
nuts.
you could see their hormones.
Yeah.
You could see them.
You don't
The
teach.
worst part about 7th, 8th, and 9th is they think they're hilarious. And
Yeah.
I know comedy, you're not
Yeah.
funny. And it makes me angry because they think they're hilarious and they're
It's
always
so
like
funny.
looking to their peers like, that was funny, right? That was funny.
Yeah.
No,
you
it's
hear me?
not.
Did you hear
You
me?
are never funny. You're not clever.
Yeah.
You got nothing. Sit
Like,
down.
it's so stupid.
Whereas like the older kids often were inappropriate, but they were funny. Like,
Yeah.
Yes.
I gotta give it to you. That was funny.
You know, right. Yeah.
That was funny.
Exactly.
They're
Yeah, try to
not
ignore
they're
them.
annoying. They're rude. I don't know how people do that age group.
I can't. I don't. It was.
Last time.
I never taught. You just. I felt like I was wrangling them all day long. I told you, put a fire out over here. Then this one over here is starting. Now these people over
Right.
here are fighting, but that fire just restarted, and that fire
Right.
joined that fire, and I'm just like,
Right.
all day long, all day long.
Yeah, there's people that's all they do is that age group. I mean, I had a friend who only did ninth grade and she loved it. And I would say, I don't get it. And she's like, they're easy to scare and they believe anything you tell them. And she thought this was amazing. Like they're old enough to know that what I'm saying doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But you could get them, like I'd tell them Whitney Houston is my aunt or something, and they would be talking about it the whole year.
Exactly.
You think that's really true? We looked it up and like, whereas you saw older kids and they're like, yeah, whatever.
Right, exactly.
Like, oh, that was very fun. And that you just make a face and that is scary to them. Well, I don't know. I don't have that face.
I couldn't do it. No, I give it to them. I used to have to practice and then learn it, but that was my thing too, because I'm just a big goofy guy all day long. So I don't like being me. I don't like being me. I can, but I don't want to do that. That makes it even more draining versus like, it's already enough being there. And this is tiring, but me having to be mean, so I'm faking it to do that with you. And that just makes me even more like, I don't want to be here.
Draining.
Yeah.
And there are some teachers who are like that all day long. It comes natural to them. Great. They should get the unruly classes.
Yeah.
But I had an administrator I feel was pressuring me to just be mean and made me feel bad that like you wouldn't have these issues if you were just, she didn't use the word mean, but this is what she meant.
Yes.
Like be mean, be bitchy, talk down to them.
No.
I'm not capable of doing that. I became a teacher because most of my teachers talked to us like we were little pieces of shit. You know,
Right.
exactly. No one wants your opinion, and you know, just
take a child's place and be quiet.
Right, you're below me. You're a child, and then when I got to college and we had discussions, I was like, "This is learning. This is great. This person cares of what I think." If controlling this class means treating them like that, I'm not capable of that. So maybe those classes aren't a good fit.
Exactly.
But it was like, no, you need to change who you are. That was very, very hard for me. That was part of the issue at the end there for me is I can't change who I am. I know there's nothing wrong with me. I don't think I should have to change my personality. And there are plenty of kids and plenty of classes here that I would do just fine with. But you keep giving me the ones that I guess need somebody who's militant. It's not going to work.